I first became aware of 9/11 in March of 1971. I had a vision of a plane coming into New York City, low. That vision kept coming back about once a month, over and over for years, kept coming on.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm Dr. Yvonne Cason, the president of Spiritual Awakenings International. So we are delighted to be meeting with you today. We love to know where people are joining from, so just take a moment now and type into the chat where you're joining us from today. Spiritual Awakenings International is in 75 countries around the world and expanding. We're just delighted. Now, our speaker today is from Portland, Oregon, and our Vice President of Spiritual Awakenings, Robert Baer, is also from Oregon. So I'm now going to invite Robert to please introduce today's speaker, Greg Thompson.
Thank you, Dr. Cason. Again, my name is Robert Baer. I am the Vice President and co-founder of Spiritual Awakenings International, and thank you all for attending. We have a great presentation today. Greg Thompson is really a great speaker. He's a retired IBM software engineer and empath who has had several near-death experiences, one shared death experience, numerous out-of-body experiences, done remote viewing, astral travel, has psychic abilities, and has been blessed with the ability to communicate with his spirit guides. He's also the group leader for the Portland, Oregon chapter of IONS. Greg speaks today about his connection with his spirit guides, how it started by being told what to do when he was a very young boy, and how it changed to an awareness of what he should do. At that point, he knew he had choices he could make. Greg believes we all have spirit guides. He explains how he has communicated with them through his life, and how they are good friends whom he can contact at will. So without further ado, Greg?
Thank you. Yes, it all started when I was very young. My first memory is living in a house that actually I don't remember much about. I remember this one event that happened there, but nothing really else at that time. I was sitting in the living room or on the floor, and I had a little toy that I was playing with on the hassock next to me. And I was really fascinated by the fact that I could move the toy and, well, just like that, I guess, move the toy and the wheels would move. And to me, that was just a fascinating thing. So I was just having a good time. When all of a sudden I heard a voice behind me say, "Memorize the room." I'm going, memorize the room? Well, what's that mean? Because I don't understand. And the reply was, remember where everything is in the room, all the furniture, everything on the walls, everything. Remember what it is. So I did. I won't go through the detail, but I memorized everything that was in the room, where the furniture was and such. I turned around and looked behind me, and there was a dinette area and a kitchen area. So I added that to the list. There was a hallway down to the left, and it was a bathroom on one side, but I couldn't recall what it was. What it looked like, but the other side had a bedroom, and that's where my mother slept, and me in a crib. Wait a minute, why do I have to know all of that? I was told, because something's about to happen. Doorbell rang. My mother came down the hall, she picked me up, put me in her arms, went to the door, opened the door, and there's a man standing there in a uniform. I recognized that uniform. There's a picture of a man in a uniform on a table in the living room. And the day before, there had been a couple of ladies come by, and they were talking to my mother and pointing to that picture, and they referred to that picture as being my daddy. So this must be daddy, right? Okay, let him in. I want to see him. I want to see him. Well, she's hanging on, and she won't let me go, just kind of waiting there. And he started talking, and he expressed his condolences. And my mother tightened up real tight. And I tried to turn. She was sad. I wanted to help her. I wanted to love her, but I couldn't do anything. So I just stopped and I listened. And they talked for a while, and they were kind of quiet and solemn about it. And there were two words that I heard that I knew were important, but I didn't know what they meant. One was dead, and the other was death. I just kept listening. And as I went on, it dawned on me, Daddy's not coming home. He's never coming home. My mother would close the door after the man left and put me back down on the floor. And she went running down the hall into the bedroom and started crying and crying and crying. I told my mother that story when on her deathbed in 1975. She had lung cancer, and it was pretty much gone by now. We knew it was her last night in the house. She was going back to the hospital the next morning. There's a certain freedom that happens when you're talking with somebody who's dying, or at least in this case there was. She told me, you have any questions of any kind about family, about anything, I will give you the answers I can. I'll tell you the truth. And we sat and laughed and talked all the night. And in that, I told her the story. I couldn't look at her at the time. I just simply looked straight ahead, and I went through the whole story because I knew this was why I had this memorized. I didn't know why specifically, but she was going to tell me. But I knew it was something I needed to know. So I went through the whole thing, and then I looked at her afterwards, and she had tears going down her cheeks. She said, I didn't know. How could I have known? You were so young. You described the room and the house perfectly. You got everything right, everything right. You understood what was going on in the room, at the door. And oh my God, you understood the conversation. You knew your father was dead. I said, well, no, I didn't know that. I just knew he wasn't going to be around. Same thing. I said, well, how old was I and where were we? She said, oh, well, let's see. We were in off-base housing near the Air Force base in Kansas City. She said, we were only there for a short period of time, about a month, maybe 6 weeks. I said, well, what was going on there? And she said, well, she tried to get away from her mother after I was born because after she had the child, me, she moved in for her parents, and her mother was smothering, taking me away and raising me, and telling my mother she just didn't know how to do it. And my mother didn't like that, and she gave up, and she went back to Kansas City, where she had been stationed with my father, and found out that all of her friends were getting married or dating or whatever, and she was just a widow with a baby and didn't fit in, so she came back home. That's why she was only there for a short period of time. Why did I have to know at that age that my father was dead? It's something that's kind of puzzled me my entire life. But I think I have some ideas about it. Maybe I'll get it. I seem to have a real good connection to death now. And that's, I think, started with that point in time. My mother remarried when I was 2 years old. And now I had 3 grandmothers and 2 grandfathers, which was fantastic for Christmas. Wow, presents, bring them on. I had a really good time. At the age of 4, I was being passed around about once a month from my parents to the different grandparents. So my mother and my stepfather could have a place to themselves or have a night to themselves. So this one night I was sent down to Lizzie. Lizzie was my stepfather's mother. She had a nice, big, huge farmhouse. This time she was allowing me to sleep in the guest room if I wanted to, because now I'm 4 years old. Okay. Before I was 3, I would sleep with her at night. So she snored. I really didn't like that. So the opportunity to be in another room and an adult room, wow, I'm all for that. I'm all for that. So she puts me in there. she tucks me in and she leaves the door open just a little bit with the light in the hallway so that if in case I got a little scared, there'd be a little bit of light in there. And then she would check in on me later. She went down the hall, washed dishes or something. So I'm just lying there in bed in this big full-size bed, all just for me. I'm feeling really, really good. I'm getting older now. Yeah, get more privileges. And so I was just having a good old time. And I suddenly become aware there's something in the room. So I look around, trying to actually get out of bed, look around. No, go back to get in bed and go, well, maybe I am a little scared. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a little bit scared, but I don't feel scared. Hey, I got this neat room. It's really nice, really nice. Well, no, there's something in this room somewhere. I'll just lie here, just kind of lie here. And I'll just look around with my eyes and see if I can see anything anywhere. Anything on the left side? No. Anything in front of me? No. On the right? Oh, whoa. There's a little boy sitting on the foot of the bed on the right side. And his legs crossed and he's back to me and he's writing something. What the heck's he doing? Where did he come from? How did he get here? And then I realized it's not a little boy. He's bluish white in color, and I can see through him. Is he a ghost? No, can't be a ghost. I mean, I don't feel scared or anything. What is he? What's he doing? So I just sat there and watched him. And after a little while, he finished what he was doing, turned and saw me. He said, oh, hello. I said, hello. Now we're staring at each other. Okay, what's going on here? So I asked him, who are you? Why are you here? He said, oh, I'm your guardian angel. You're my what? I'm your guardian angel. Okay, why are you here? He said, well, I have to check in on you every once in a while to see how you're doing. Okay, and I'm going, why do you have to check in on me? Well, because my superiors want me to. I'll be checking in every once in a while. Every once in a while? Okay, so now I'm kind of wondering, am I supposed to be doing something? And he's going to check to see how I'm doing, but what would I be doing? So I asked him, I said, what am I supposed to be doing? He said, oh, anything you want. You have choices. You can do anything you want. I said, but there must be something. Well, the conversation went on for a while. And finally, it finally got out of him that I do have a path I'm expected to follow. And they want to see if I do it or not and help out if needed. But I kept pushing him, said, well, what is it? What is it? What is it? What is it? And finally he said, okay, I can tell you, but then I have to erase your memory of it. So there's no sense in doing it. I'm going, aha, there's a loophole here. So you have to tell me. I can go on and on bugging him about that. And finally he says, okay, fine, I'll tell you. So he does. And then he erases my memory of it. About that time, Lizzie comes in the door and says, Gregory, what are you doing? Who are you talking to? Nobody. Well, go to sleep. She closes the door. So that was my first experience, one-to-one. My parents had bought a house in Oregon City, here in Oregon. And my bedroom was on the second floor. Theirs was on the first floor. And mine was just a small little room kind of place, single bed, twin bed. And at nighttime, I found myself floating out of bed at night. And I just float up in the air, and I float down, and I float up. And I just thoroughly enjoyed it. It's like being a feather, just floating up and down. And I did that every night, just thoroughly just enjoying it, moving up and down, floating, just floating along. And after a while, these two spirits show up, and they start floating with me. Oh, this is kind of good. Look, I got company. We're all floating up and down. And they said, you can fly higher. We fly higher. You can fly higher. I'm going, no, I'm okay. Fly higher, fly higher. Okay, fine. So I fly up to the ceiling. They said, you can fly higher. You can fly higher. I said, no, I can't. I know what's on the other side of that ceiling. My stepfather had opened up the attic to put in new insulation. And there was nails from the shingles, and there was wire, and there's wood, and and there's cobwebs. What? I don't want to fly through that. Oh no, you can just fly through it. Just fly through it. But they finally convinced me to fly through the ceiling, through the roof, up into the air, off planet, up in the clouds, beyond the clouds, and clear out into space. And we're way out there. And they said, hey, stop. I'm going, okay. They said, turn around, take a look. So I look around and there's Earth. I can see Earth and it's beautiful. It's warm. I can feel the love. So many different loves, so many different species. Just wonderful. I love it. This is great. And I'm just really liking it. And then I look around and it's black over there, the stars, but it's cold. It's really cold. I don't like that. And, Earth, now there's something. I don't want to go home now. No, it's not time to go home yet. What do you mean it's not time to go home? Well, we got a journey to do. We got something to go do. We have an adventure. Adventure? Yeah, we have an adventure. So off we go, way out into space. And we stop. Okay, why are we stopping? Well, we're waiting for some others. Okay, so twiddle my thumb kind of thing. We just look around. Oh, I can see Jupiter way over there someplace. Well, I saw some pictures about that in the paper or something at the other day. So they were talking about something there. Oh, 3 others show up. The 2 that took me out there said, we'll see you later. And they leave. And the 3 say, okay, we're going to go real fast. So now it's time to get ready. 1 on the right, 1 on the left, 1 behind me. And away we go. And we shoot off real fast. And we can see stars going by. They're kind of like streaks of light. And we go into a tunnel of colors, white, blue, green, yellow. And we're shooting through this tunnel. And they say, look straight ahead. Look straight ahead. Just keep looking straight ahead. Don't look sideways or anything. If we lose you, we'll never find you. Oh, that scared me. Keep going, keep going, going. We get through, we're in a black void. Okay, now what? We wait. Okay, we're going to wait again. Slowly but surely, 2 white lights appear from way out there, and they slowly are coming closer and closer to me. And they get close, and they finally get up to me, and they're the size of adults. They look like cylinders, white cylinders, but they kind of look like they're trying to look like humans. You know, they got a little bit rounded off and such around them. They're not doing a very good job of it. The one on the left says, we're here to teach you what you need to know while living your life on Earth. Repeat after me. I'm going, okay, fine. So I repeat everything they said. And it goes on for a while. Finally, the other says, it's my turn. Repeat after me. And you do something with that one. Okay, fine. And then I wake up in the bed in the morning. Wait a minute. What kind of a weird dream was that? I don't get that at all. So I keep floating up at night, every night for a while. And one night, those 2 spirits come back, say, they want to talk to you again. Okay, so we go back. Repeat after me. Repeat after me. The other one says, repeat after me. Repeat after me. Bingo, I'm back in bed in the morning. They're telling me something, but I don't know what I've been told. I don't get this. It just keeps on happening. Okay, so I just go, well, okay, we just can't do anything about it. Floating up and down every night. And yeah, sure, enough, they come back again. They want to see you again. Only this time when I got there, you tell me what you've been taught, says the first one. So I tell him. The second one says, tell me. I tell them. They said, okay. We have taught you what you need to know while living this life on Earth. At the appropriate time when you need to know it, you will suddenly remember it. You don't know it now. You will remember it when you need to know it. You will just become aware. Bingo, I'm back in bed. Okay. So let's see. I have had visitation, even before that. I knew my father was dead. Okay, very young age, 4 to 5 months old. I have had my guardian angel tell me there's something that I'm supposed to be doing, the path to follow, but they won't tell me what it is. I have spiritual teachers telling me things I need to know when I need to know. You know, as a 5-year-old, a lot of things have been going on. They just don't make a lot of sense. The teachers were right. I won't go into a lot of detail about it, but I did learn at the appropriate time when I was in college what career I should take. They didn't say what the career was, but that I'd have a career that I would thoroughly enjoy and be in it as long as I wanted to. Well, I was a software engineer for 43 years. I never got fired, never got laid off or anything, just constantly working through the whole time. They also said that I would have a love in my life that was really, truly strong, and that there would be children in my life, though they were not mine. Well, that's happened too. I have Nancy, a wonderful, wonderful woman. I love her deeply. In fact, I don't think I'd be alive today if it weren't for her, quite literally. And she had a daughter by a marriage, previous marriage, and grandchildren. And so now I've inherited a family. The other path that was the second one was, what was I going to do after I retired? And it was a very simple one. Write a book and talk. Hello. In college, wow, that was fun. That was really fun. I went to the University of Oregon. It's a liberal arts school. I had no idea what I wanted to do. And it was very difficult for a while. But what I did get out of it was the openness of my mind. I had grown up in Oregon City. At that time, it was a mill town, basically Caucasian. There was a few Asians. There was one Black family that moved in when I was a senior in high school. I never got to see them. I saw them when they first moved in, but that was it. Never saw them around. But now I'm in college, and you've got all of these different types of religions. I mean, we had Jews, we had Arabs, we had people from, how would you put it? Well, their levels of income were low, but they were there on scholarships or whatever. We had all sorts of people. And I started in the summer, 66. Summer 66. And it was mostly graduate students. And they actually held really good conversations. It was unbelievable. They would have talk about religion or politics or you name it, ethics. And they listened to each other. They argued, and they argued point by point, but they respected each other's opinions. And wow, my mind opened up big time. It opened big, which turned out to be not necessarily a good thing for an empath. I've learned since then to put filters on to keep negative things out. July 22nd, 1967. Yeah, I was going to school year round. I did 8 terms in a row before I decided maybe I should take a break. But July 22nd, 1967, my roommate was gone. And I fell asleep at normal. And then I had a vision. I was standing on a cobblestone street. It had a slight incline to it. And there were houses built up on both sides, right up to the cobblestone street. And we were in the middle of an earthquake. And the thing was moving around, just moving around. And I saw a family of 5 come out of one of the houses and start to walk down the street. And the second floor wall fell down over the top of them and killed them. So I'm going, this is serious. This is really serious. And where am I? What am I doing here? Why am I here? And then a voice ran by saying, help them die. Help them what? Help them die. Who? What? How? What? I didn't understand. Help them die. Okay, fine. Okay, fine. So I started sending out unconditional love. I was letting people know they're not alone, that they are loved, and that there are others there to help them move on their journey. These things, so I didn't know where that came from, but I can visualize, I think in pictures. So I visualized this information, especially about the others floating around above. I'll take them on their journey. I did that for, I don't know how long, Again, time doesn't matter in those kind of situations, but I did it for a period of time. When it finally ended, the earthquake stopped, and I stayed for a little bit longer, and then I stopped. I woke up, I was sweating. I sat on the side of the bed and I was crying. It was so strong, so I was there. I really felt I was there. Periodically through my life, I've been doing that. I'm asked to help people die, and I find myself someplace in the world. I've traveled remotely that way all around the world. I gave it up in 2001. I couldn't do it anymore. After 9/11, I just fell apart, and I couldn't do it. I asked him, please don't make me do that anymore. And it was granted. I didn't. In 2017, I don't know what sparked it. I don't remember now. But I thought, I can do it one more time. If there is one person someplace, a one-on-one, where I can help them die, maybe I can understand why I was told to do that, why I was asked to do that. It wasn't told, I was asked. Maybe I could do it. 2018, a guardian angel showed up and said, come with me. And we ended up in Syria. And he said, help him die. There was a man strapped to a table, and it was in a basement, someplace. Well, like I said, in Syria. There was a man at the head of the table questioning him, and there was a man alongside who, well, the body had been cut open. I won't go any further than that. I was to help him die. Okay. I noticed that he had spirits floating around above him. So we're talking about getting close to death, if not there. And I tried the usual process of, unconditional love. You're not alone, you're loved. There are those there to help you move on. But I wasn't getting through. It was just kind of, no, you're not, can't, it's just not working. And I kept trying, it wasn't working. I'm going, I have to do something different. And I don't even know how I did it. I don't even know when I did it. But suddenly I started saying, rise, rise up, rise, rise up. And then I started throwing in the mantra. You are loved. Rise, rise up. There are those there that help you move on. Rise, rise up. And I sent pictures of what I was seeing. I've seen these spirits moving right around him. After a period of time, finally his soul moved up a little bit out of the body and then fell back in. I'm going, okay, we're getting there. And I did it, continued it. And finally, he rose up high enough and he saw them and they were gone and the body died. What was I learning? What was I learning? What was this lesson about? And I started thinking about, well, okay, I'm doing the mental picture thing. I'm sending unconditional love, which I've learned about that through meditations and such through my life. So I'm sending them that feeling, sending them information. That's all the physical world. I'm doing telepathy and impact to it. But I'm also, the unconditional love and the spirits floating around is actually spiritual too. So you take those two together, the physical and the spiritual, work them together, and you can get good results. At least that's the way I feel. So I think that's what I was getting out of it. But as I said, after 9/11, I chose not to do that anymore. And that was my one lesson, so I didn't have to do it again. (9/11). That is my worst day. Period. I first became aware of 9/11 in March of 1971. I had a vision of a plane coming into New York City low. I was standing in a balcony with a camera, and I was taking pictures just to test out the camera. And I saw this plane coming through, and it was going behind buildings. But between buildings, I could see the plane. And so I was holding the camera at that same speed to watch it go through town. And I made a comment to my wife, who was in the other room fixing breakfast, saying, there's this plane coming through real low. And she said, come on, it's time for eat. Well, I continued watching. And the plane never came out of the other end, down the south end, didn't come out. And I had a feeling that it hit something, a tree maybe, or a happening tree, a tower. That vision kept coming back about once a month, over and over for years, kept coming on. In the 1980s, I had a colleague at work who was from China. He was born in China, but his father took him and the others to Hong Kong. And the mother stayed behind because she wanted to stay with her family. And then this colleague eventually got an education, came to work. So it got me interested in China. You know, I thought, well, that'd be kind of fun to go there. I've been to Europe several times, but I have not been to China. Thought that'd be kind of fun. So then I started having visions about going to China. And I was told I would climb up a temple. And while I was there, either I would help somebody or somebody would help me. And something bad will happen in the world at the same time. Okay, that's just his art. And then that one started mixing back and forth with the picture of New York City. And I'm kind of going, okay, so this thing in New York City with the plane, maybe the bad thing that was in China? Don't know. Didn't really make much sense to me. 1991, I was in New York City. We went back. I was working for a phone company here, and going back to learn some new information from IBM in Poughkeepsie. And I went down. I had a coworker with me and a friend of mine from IBM. The three of us went down to the city to see what was going on there, and have some fun. Maybe go see the Statue of Liberty or something. And we walked by the South Tower. And the IBMer said, hey, would you like to go and see the observation deck? Pretty cool. He had never been there either. He kind of wanted to. So we said, yeah, sure. Okay, so we went into the South Tower. We went through the atrium. There was an atrium on one side of it. And it had palm trees in it. And so the building had to be, that atrium had to be at least 2 stories high. I can't recall. And there was a marble floor in it. We walked through there and got to the elevator, and it said, observation deck closed. Go to the North Tower. There were no signs anywhere where it told you how to go anywhere. Okay. It turned out that if we had known, we could have just taken an escalator nearby, down 1 floor, walked across a mall, and the escalator back up and gone through the North Tower. But we didn't know it was there. So my friends were talking to each other about this. And I decided, well, since I can't go up and then look down, I'll just go up to the atrium, which is hooked to the side of the building, and look up. So I went back out, and I'm looking up the side of this building, and I had to move back a little bit so I could get a good perspective. And I'm looking at it and going, this is really neat. That's quite an achievement. And then I saw fire shooting out of the top, and glass and metal flying down around me. And it was landing outside around me. And I thought, I got to get out of here. And I started to run in. And I go, no, I can't do it. The tower's going to come down. I turned around, walked out, ran out. And I got outside. Things were normal. Blue sky, sunny day. Birds are chirping in the trees. I turned around, looked up there. Perfectly fine. And I'm shaking. I am shaking. I could hardly stand up. I went over and sat down on a bench and just waited for them to come out. They finally came out. They said, well, we think we'll go down to the Statue of Liberty. I said, okay. And they said, what are you doing out here? I said, what, didn't you hear me yell at you to get out of there? He said, yeah, I heard something. And then he ran out. What's going on? So I told him what I saw. They're going, oh, well, Statue of Liberty is going to close pretty soon. Let's get going. What? You're not, do you just hear me? They're already walking away. So I walk along behind them, kind of going, okay, I don't get this. This is real. This is real to me. And we're walking by the tower. We're on the sidewalk right next to it. And I said, I can't stand this. I put my hands on the side of the building. I've never done that before or since. I just put them up there and I'm going, what I saw, is that real? Is that going to happen? No response at all. And my friend said, what are you doing? I said, just a minute. I said, okay, I'll ask it differently. When's this going to happen? And I was told 10 years. I was there in September of 91. So I told them about it, what I'd been told, that it's going to come down in 10 years. Both towers are coming down in 10 years. They said, why would anybody tear down brand new buildings? That doesn't make sense. And they went on and on about how that can't be happening. And oh, well, maybe we should go to Ellis Island instead. Okay, fine. October of 2001, I was back in New York and had dinner with these two and the wife of the IBMer. And I mentioned, do you remember that whole thing about 10 years later and stuff? And no idea. No, really? We said that? No. The wife came around the corner and said, you don't remember that? And she started yelling and screaming at him. I said, no, wait a minute. No. I expected that as an answer. And he said, well, why would you expect that? I said, well, we work with computers, right? They all have chains of commands and such, and memory. I said, if something is said to you that's so strange that you don't understand what the heck they're talking about, you dismiss it. It's not stored in your memory. And that's what's going on with them. It just didn't stay. I was in China when 9/11 happened. I took a tour. I heard it on the radio about a tour to China, and they had all the the big things you'd like to see, and they were also sending along a string quartet to play music occasionally after dinner. Well, that got me, being a musician and having this interest in China. I looked it up and decided to go. In order to get there, I had to fly from Seattle down to San Francisco. And the tour agency also had a group of people coming from Chicago to San Francisco. And then we'd catch a plane to go to Shanghai. We got to the airport down there and we got all lined up to get on the plane. And there's a certain thing I always do when I get on a plane. Maybe it's a superstition, I don't know. But I look at the line of people getting on in front of me. And I was toward the back of it. I mean, there was 90 people, I think it was, that were going on the tour. So we're all lined up to get on. And I'm looking at auras. What's people's auras look like? If it's gray, they're not doing too well. If it's dark, like in some cases I can't see the body, then that's death. So I'm watching and I don't see anybody in that situation. There's one person that's ill or will be ill, flu or something like that kind of thing, but nobody, we're all going to be okay. So, okay, strike one, good. Number two, I look at the plane. What's the plane look like? It's a nonstop flight from San Francisco to Shanghai. No, it won't be it will not be a direct flight. Okay. What's the airport look like? We're coming back on September 13th. What does the airport look like? It's empty. Go. It's empty? Yeah, In fact, there is nobody even outside. There's no planes on the runway or anything. It's closed. The airport is closed. I'm going, okay, this is getting just too scary. We get on the plane, we fly off. I noticed that they had the picture of where the plane is, the little model thing showing where the plane is. And it told you the headwinds and such. The headwinds were 90 miles per hour or 95 miles per hour all the way. It wasn't just along the shoreline. It was that way out across the Pacific. I'm going, where the heck? We're going to be okay. Nobody's going to die. But 90-mile-per-hour winds across the Pacific. Where do you stop in the Pacific Ocean? We're far north of Hawaii. I mean, the first land we're going to see maybe it's Japan or China, if we get there. And sure enough, about an hour before we were supposed to land, the pilot came on and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, sorry to wake you up." Most of them were sleeping. But you may have noticed, those of you who are up, that we have headwinds that are really high. We're running low on fuel. If we had to continue our way to Shanghai, we will land in the water about an hour before we're supposed to land. We think that may not be what you want to do today. They said, so we have made arrangements to stop at Okinawa. And there's a military base there. And we're going to land there and refuel just enough fuel to get us to Shanghai. And oh, by the way, don't mind the fact that the plane's going to be surrounded by soldiers with machine guns aimed at you. They want to make sure you don't get off. And sure enough, that's what happened. And we got to Shanghai about a half hour late. Okay. If it was a nonstop, it was not a nonstop flight, but we stopped. Then in the airport thing may be true. We aren't coming back on the 13th. So watch out. During the day in China, I was happy. I was a tourist. I thoroughly enjoyed being in China. People were very nice. And the cultural traditions and stuff they had were fun. But at night, every night, I dreaded what was coming. I could feel it coming. September 11th. Beijing is 12 hours ahead of New York City when we have daylight savings time running. So 8 o'clock in the morning in New York City is 8 p.m. the same day in Beijing. On September 11th, we were scheduled to go to a Chinese opera at 7 o'clock. The Chinese opera is a little different than what we think when we think of opera. It is well, in some ways it might be similar, but it is a story of a legend, a hero. We do that with some things in opera, but this was completely different in style. The hero is a male, but it's played by a woman. That's the way the tradition is. So while we're watching this, there's a scene where the hero is out on stage by himself. Well, actually has one other person, and he's doing a sword dance. So he has these long swords, really sharp, and somebody throws him a sword up in the air, and it comes down handle first, and they hit it with their elbow. And it goes back up in the air, and it comes down, and it hits on their shoulder, and next it back up in the air. And every time one comes down, another sword is added. So at some point there's like 5 or 6 swords going up in the air, and this person is bouncing them around, and this music is playing while it's doing it. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. It's kind of like they've taken an instrument that's used for weaponry or defense and made it into something beautiful in a dance and music. I was really enjoying it. And then I felt a disturbance. And I'm going, it started. And a little while later, an energy wave came through the room. Very slow, moving across. And I could feel the atmosphere changing in the room. And when it got past me, chaos is here on Earth. it was very strong, and not friendly. Continue watching. And a little while later, I was watching what was on stage. And all of a sudden, between me and the stage, I saw the South Tower come down. And the dust and smoke, and I could feel people dying. I could feel them jumping. And I was told, help them live. What? Help them live. People were running by me. I was on the street. People were running by me. I'm going, well, how am I supposed to, how do I do that? I've been trained how to help them die, not live. What about the dead? Somebody else is taking care of it. Help them live. So all I could do really basically was just say, continue on. They were turning around, looking behind them and such. I said, just keep going, keep going, keep going. You're okay, you're okay, keep moving. As the cloud was getting closer and closer. We got done, the lights came on for an intermission. I was a nervous wreck by then. I looked down, we were in the balconies, and I looked down below. There were people getting up, going, restroom or just for a walk a little bit. And they were just doing normal things. I looked behind me, same thing. They were just behaving like normal. And the people from the right side of me, they were getting up and walking out. I was kind of in the middle of a section. And they were all getting in, they were talking about how they loved it and all that. And I looked left, and the woman next to me, she was bent over. She had her hands on her face on her hands, and she was crying. Her friend was saying, are you okay? You okay? What's wrong? What's wrong? No response. She was just crying. I leaned over to her. I said, did you feel that? And it took a little while, and she said, yes. And I said, so did I. Her friend finally got her up and walked out, and she was crying as she went. They weren't back for the second half. I had told I had a couple of friends by that time on the tour. We've been traveling for over a week. A couple, I know a couple. And I told them that something bad was going to happen while we're here, but I wouldn't say what. And I got him walked out, and the man looked at me and he said, it happened, didn't it? And I said, yes. He said, where? I said, United States. He said, where in the United States? I said, I won't tell you. I won't tell you. Enjoy the evening. And when you get home, don't turn on the TV. By God, don't turn on the TV. He said, okay. So he and his wife decided they'd do something different. Read a book, do some knitting, that sort of thing. The next morning, I wake up. I actually slept. I don't know how I did it, but I managed to sleep. I turned on the TV set after having taken a shower. I was getting dressed. The TVs there were kind of interesting how they had it set up. I think I like the idea. They had them set up for CNN International because we're in a hotel basically for Americans or English speaking. And it comes up with no volume. There are many times I like to turn on my TV in a hotel and the volume's turned down to nothing. And I'm not looking at the TV. I'm putting on my shoes and socks. I think I put on one sock, and I turned and looked at the TV set, and I saw a plane going into a high rise. And I looked away and said, that's really stupid. I was thinking, this is how my mind was working. I was thinking there was a new Arnold Schwarzenegger film that was going to come out. I don't think it ever did. It was kind of like a Die Hard, terrorists in a high-rise building. And I just assumed that was part of the movie plot trailer. And I put on another stock and I'd look around and I see it another angle. Well, shit, a plane going into a building. And I thought, geez, how long is that commercial? And I started putting on a shoe and I go, wait a minute, maybe that's not what it is. And I turned and looked, and then I saw across the bottom, America under attack. And I watched it for a little bit, and then I turned it off. I mean, I already knew what it was. I knew how it went. And I started laughing hysterically. It's over. It's finally happened. It's over. I don't have to live with it by myself anymore. It's over. Everybody knows about it. The whole world knows about it. It's over. And I was so relieved that it was over. And I was just laughing, really hysterically. And then it hit me, but I didn't stop it. I'd been told I couldn't stop it. I was told that on September 8th. Couldn't stop it. And then I felt guilty. I was crying. And then I was crying and laughing at the same time. And suddenly I found myself up on the ceiling, looking down at this body of this human, laughing and crying loudly, really super loudly. I fell back into the body, and I fell off the bed onto the floor, on all four, laughing and crying loudly. And I fell down on the floor, laughing and crying loudly. And then I was in a fetal position, laughing and crying. And I was loud as I could be, I wanted to get it out of my body, so I stopped crying and laughing, get it out of my body. I needed to do something physical, yell, scream, lie. Nobody came. I mean, either the walls are very, very, very quiet, or there just was nobody around, because if I had heard that kind of noise, I would have been going knocking on the door, what's going on? But they didn't. I finally stopped. I went in, cleaned up my face, went downstairs to see what everybody else had been doing. We got home 5 days late, flew in through Chicago. It was the only airport open. It was the first airport open, other than, well, it was the first airport opened in the United States. At least that's what we were told. Our scheduled flight actually left Beijing on time. It went to Vancouver, BC, loaded with people who were ill. And then they brought them across the border in a bus. We learned that later. I got home and I was a complete mess. I mean, I don't know. I was outside the United States, okay? I was in Beijing, halfway around the world. I experienced it from my own perspective, but also as an observer of it outside the United States. When I got back, I learned what it was like for people who lived here, lived through it. Not sure what's going to happen next. And in the silence of no planes. What caught my attention, though, was when I took the shuttle back home from the airport, was that every car, every truck, motorcycles, any kind of vehicle had at least one American flag on it. I wasn't expecting that. I asked the shuttle driver, what's with the flags? And he said, well, where have you been? I said, I was in China. He goes, oh. He said, well, people here need to grieve. And they are united as one in order to, because we all felt it, we all were involved in it. And this is a way to show support by having an American flag. That made me feel even more guilty that I wasn't able to stop it. I went to work. I went my first day back was I came in like on a Friday, and I took Monday off. I called the boss and said I can't make it in. Jet lag, that's what I said. So on Tuesday I went back in, and I wasn't able to do anything. I was useless. But then everybody else was too. Even now, my boss came to me after a few days. I had had the same manager for 20 years at that time. And he said, come to my desk. And he said, what's going on? You're not doing anything. You're just not doing anything. And I started crying and told him what was going on. He didn't know how to react to that because he wasn't expecting that. And he told me, well, just, try, just try. He said, I'm not expecting a lot from you. I'll give you some time. A friend of mine came into town a few days later, and he stayed at the house for a day or two in Seattle. And he said, Ray, what's wrong? You're not acting like yourself. And so I told him what was going on. And he said, I think I can help you. I said, how can you do anything? And he said, I have some people that you should go visit. They live in St. Helens, which is just outside of Portland. They're a spiritual group, and they might be helpful to you. And so he arranged for me to go down and give a talk. I went down and I talked for 2.5 hours without stopping. I finished it up. There was like 10, 12 people there in a circle. And they all understood. They actually understood. It was so good. I felt good for the first time in a long time. And they said, you need to write a book. I said, write a book? I said, well, at least get it written down in a journal. Because when they found out I hadn't written anything down, they said, you have to do that. You have to put it down on paper while you still remember it. Well, hell, I certainly knew what was going on when I was 4 months old. So I still had a pretty good idea what was going on. They said, no, you need to write it down. They invited me to come back about 2 months later and tell it again, because there were some people that had not been there the first time. And so I told it again. And then the lady who kind of facilitated the whole thing, she said, well, you've written it down now? I said, yeah, I've got it written down. She said, well, how many pages? I said, 19. She goes, 19 pages? What did you write? I said, one-liners, dates and one-liners. I said, no. You need to write it all down. What did you feel at the time? What was going on in your mind? What was going on around you? If it's important to related, you have to write everything down, not just one-liners. Well, it took a while. That didn't happen until 2020, actually 2018 to 2020, I guess. I wrote it out. But I tell you, if you have any experiences that are, well, different, in this society, I guess you'd call it different. I have found that I'm still writing journals. Anytime something comes up, I write it down. And I go back and look at it. And I add to it going, oh, I forgot such and such, or I forgot such and such. It helps me a great deal to know how I'm progressing with my spirit guides and such. Nowadays, I don't really have to meditate or anything. I used to have to meditate when I was back in college days. I had to meditate, and it would come to me. The way I did it was basically I'd catch myself while I'd fallen asleep. There's that point in time where you're awake, and there's that point in time where you're sleeping. There's a little spot in between. I'm not a doctor or anything, so I can't tell you the words. But there's that time frame when you're kind of in limbo, if you will. And I learned how to be able to catch that at that moment in time and ask for a question, and I'd get an answer. They are always cryptic. They're always cryptic. My spirit guides, with the exception of 1 or 2 times, has never told me anything specifically I should do or how to do something or an answer to a question. No, they're not that good at it. You got choices. You got choices. You can do anything you want. All right. So anyway, nowadays I just think it and it comes. It comes to me telepathically. My spirit guides, I have never seen my spirit guides. I just feel them. I know they're there. And they're here right now. They usually come to me on the right side. And when they come by, if they really want to get my attention, I'm not paying much attention, they'll come by and brush my side of my face. Basically saying, we love you. It's okay, everything's okay. And I like that. It's good to have that kind of feedback off and on. The other thing is I love being out in nature. You might notice the picture behind me here. Trees. Trees are my favorite item in nature. I can connect with trees very easily, especially evergreens. I can actually just go into the tree, and I can just be one with it, and I can feel it's the fluids going up and down inside the tree, and they're very quiet, very slow at responding. Well, they're there for a long time, right? Probably longer than I will be. But it's just a beautiful thing. And I take walks in the park. There's a nature habitat near me. They got deer, coyotes, wolves, beaver, ducks, birds. It's a peaceful place to be in nature. And so that's where I really walk every day. And so that's what really, really keeps me level-headed. So anyway, I think that's about it. So I guess I'll turn it back over for questions.
All right. Thank you, Greg, for that absolutely incredible presentation. I'm now going to turn it over to Ann Archer, who will be moderating the question and answer period. Ann.
Well, that was delightful. Thank you so much, Greg. What a beautiful story. And I loved all the bits and pieces. You know, some people are still interested, despite everything you said, in your spirit guides. And have they always been the same? Have they always been with you? Because at the end, you mentioned that they're always cryptic. So have they changed over time, or is it always the same?
They have changed over time, or I have changed probably more than they. Yeah, initially they were very cryptic and really hard to understand. As I pointed out, the guardian angel had said, you have choices, you can do anything you want. And I think that's probably true. So the guides, I call them guides. They don't tell me what to do, generally speaking. I mean, they did at the beginning when I was 4 months old, you know, memorize the room. But generally speaking, they are very cryptic about what they tell me. I'm trying to think of an example, but I can't really think of one. They will tell me almost everything I need to know, but they won't get to the point where it say what to do. So they'll give me the data, as it were. A good example of it is, I'll try to make it short, but it's kind of hard. The one thing, they have tried to save my life several times, and it's successful, obviously. But the way they do it is when, if I'm in mortal danger, or I'm thinking about something that's going to lead me toward mortal danger, I think that's probably a better way to say it, they will put pressure on my shoulders. I feel pressure being put on my shoulders, pushed me down a little bit. And it's very nice and warm. It's not pushed down or anything. It's just kind of a little push like this kind of thing. And that happened a few years ago with, I was driving from my house down to Nancy's school, which is about a 10-minute drive away. And I hit every light red all the way down there, all the way. I mean, not just stoplights, but crosswalk lights, bicycle path lights, fire station, fire truck coming out, everything stopped me all the way down to that place. And I did what I needed to do, and I was driving back home, and it was hitting me all the way back home. I got to the intersection of 122nd Southeast Division, which is a very busy intersection. It's considered one of the worst ones in Portland. What a reputation. And I stopped at the red light. And everything around it, I mean, there's left turns and right turn lanes and 2 lanes going each direction. So you've got, quite a few lanes going on in this intersection.
Right.
And at that moment, everything froze. Nothing moved, no lights changed. Now, I don't know how they did it. Maybe they just slowed me down. I don't know. But everything was just stopped. And I'm going, okay, what's going on here? Why is the lights not changing? Why are they not turning green? And then it dawned on me, wait a minute, maybe it's when it turns green is the problem. And I had a little nudge. I'm going, okay. So I drove on down and I got to the next major intersection, which is 122nd and Southeast Foster Road. And again, it's pretty much the same kind of intersection. And I was the first in line, and the light turned green, and I started going across slowly. And I got about halfway across it. The far right lane going this direction was nobody in it. I'm in rush hour. That does not happen in rush hour. So I'm going slow, looking at that, going, is that the spot where there's a problem? And a car shot through there, missed me by about a yard. The guy's doing about 45 miles an hour. It's a 35 zone. And he looked like this. He was completely zoned out. And he just shot through that intersection. If I'd been going, well, I asked, I got across the intersection, I stopped, and I said, if I'd gone through at a regular speed, what would have happened? And I was shown what would have happened. He would have hit the front of my car on the right side. My car would have turned and tipped over. So the driver's side would be on the ground. And I've been slid across and hit into a car that was wanting to turn left. I would have been killed. So would the driver of that car. The car that was going through fast would have been hit just at the right angle. So it would have slid into the gas station and hit the pumps. Why that was happening, I don't know. Was I being protected, or was he being protected? Or were both of us being protected? Again, very cryptic, but it's an example of when they did something for me, they didn't have to tell me anything. I just knew this was not normal. So I don't know if that answered the question at all, but there are different ways that I get answers. Sometimes I will just simply ask the question to my mind, just thinking it out loud or thinking it quietly. What if I do such and such? And sometimes I become aware of, intuition, right? Intuition. Yes, I should do that instead. Was that me? Was that a coincidence? I like to think it's my angels. I hope that helped.
That was great. Yes, signs and symbols, that's interesting. That's a way to describe that cryptic communication, but fortunately you're listening. Now, one of the questions we have is, do you have any sense of why this happened to you as a child and why you were able to stay open to it when everybody next door and across the street and in town doesn't have the same experience?
Yeah, I do. Again, writing the book, writing it all down helped me a lot to understand things that I never would have thought about at all. And it's my mother. I believe that it's possible, I can't say that it is, but it's possible that we were both brought back to work together at least on this. She had other issues, I'm sure, that had to be resolved. But I look back at her life, and she got ill a few months after I had finally gotten a job, a full-time job that I liked, and I had a place to live on my own. Now, this was back in the 70s. There was a recession going on in 71. Bad one. I remember in Seattle, there was a billboard up on the way out of town on I-5 saying, "Will the last person leaving town please turn off the lights?" Every bank downtown had RVs and boats in its parking lot. Boeing was going broke. Basically, they were having problems. And there was a general recession going on. And that's when I was graduating from college. I couldn't find a job. I ended up living with my mother, blah, blah, blah. It was not something neither one of us wanted to have happen. But she was around just long enough to get me on my own path moving forward. I also know that she could see future events. There are 2 times, and we don't have time for that right now, but there were 2 times in my life where she knew something before it was going to happen, and she took preparations for it. One time saved our lives. Another one is just a family thing that was going on. So I think I was born into an environment where my father was dead. My mother remarried to a very nice man when I was 2. But there was still a lot of friction between the 3 of us in the family because I was a constant reminder of a first marriage. All right. So there was this conflict, and I think there was some overprotectiveness on her side to help me get through things. And if I had a question about something, she listened and answered it. All right. So I think, quite frankly, what helped me in my early years, at least up through high school, maybe into college, probably that period of time, the first 17 years of my life, she was a very positive influence and understood if I said something weird, like what was going to happen or something like that, she didn't dismiss it. She accepted it as something that I truly believed.
Well, another question we have here, and thank you for that, is have your spirit guide said anything to you about the relationship between your human self and your higher self and how to interrelate between the 2?
I don't think my guides are involved in that. There definitely is two sides of me, that's for sure. You're looking at a human being right here, right? But actually, what you're looking at is 2 entities. And we're all 2 entities. There's this physical body, right? I can move around, physical body. And then there's the soul. I have actually been able to go in and out of my body. Well, I'm pointed that out in Beijing, but that was a different situation. But I can actually do it on purpose. I can leave my body for a short period of time, and it's not. I don't know how to explain it. Why would I do that in the first place? The one time I remember the first time I did it was quite accidental. I was taking a walk in the park, and I had just gotten out of surgery and from a heart condition, and it was my first time I was starting to walk. And so I was watching my step real close. I'm looking down a lot. And I suddenly discovered that I was also looking forward and looking down the trail where I was going. And I going, how could I be doing both? And then I started playing with it a little bit. And I was looking from up here, looking out, and I was looking from here down. And that's the first time I realized I could do both at the same time. And I have found myself doing that several times, usually not on purpose. I mean, something happens. So I know that there is really 2 entities in a human body. And so anyway, that's where I'm at. I hope that answered. I'm not sure I answered the question.
That was great. Now, I had another question. Oh, yes, Michelle had really wanted to say, how do you put your filters up for empathy? Obviously, you're very open, but how do you put your filters up? Because some people don't know how to, and they become very overwhelmed with the suffering in the world, you understand.
Yeah, well, having had it my whole life, it's one thing I did learn when I went to college. That was my first time really in a large community, as it were. I mean, Oregon City was a small town. We all knew each other, but we had our own little groups of people. College was a whole different atmosphere. I mean, you got thousands of people from all sorts of walks of life. And I found that I had to, what I wanted every time, I've always wanted to be able to communicate any way I can with anybody. But I also had a constant desire to only find goodness. All right. So I'm very comfortable opening myself up because I'm only looking for goodness. So some people refer to having nightmares when they open up. They, bad things come about. They have bad dreams, but they're walking around having bad dreams. I've never had that, and hope I never do. So one thing that one can do is just simply look for the goodness, look for good things to be happening. The other thing I think is to examine oneself a little bit. This is me. I'm not a doctor or anything. Is to look for that unconditional love. Do you have anybody that you just love? It could be a wife, a husband, a brother, a sister, a neighbor down the street, whatever. Are you willing to do anything for them, no matter what kind of thing? If they have been in the hospital for a while and they're coming home, are you willing to be there to help them get readjusted? That's that sort of thing. That's unconditional love. If you can get into that moment of going, yeah, and you found it, now how do you find it again? Well, what got you there the first time? Try to think about where you were and practice it with others. I mean, you're not being gooey, gushy with somebody, okay? You just treat them nicely. Just treat them nicely. And I've done that. I've done that a couple of times with people that I don't want to go into politics, okay? I really want to go into politics. But there are some people who have very strong opinions about how something's supposed to be done, and they want to change it, okay? No, that's not a problem. I mean, we all have that kind of thought about something, I'm sure. But they don't agree with what I think, all right? So what I found is, okay, I'm not going to convince them to change their mind, and they're not going to convince me to change my mind. So what I do is I try to find something common between the two of us. Maybe it's art, maybe it's food, whatever. Try to find something that's common between the two of us that we can agree on and then build on that. That is a form, in my sense, of love. Trying to find common ground between us. That could even become unconditional if it gets into a situation where you have to help that person, even though you don't like some of the things they say or do, but they need help, and you know how to help them. And then you move forward on it. Again, getting back to unconditional love. And unconditional love leads you to all sorts of wondrous things in your life. It really does. And it doesn't cost anything. There's no money involved. You don't have to go out and buy something to get a ticket to go to unconditional love. So empathy comes about basically from being able to, well, first of all, love thyself. All right. You have to have a pretty good feeling for yourself, period. Not egotistical, just a realistic, how do you feel about yourself? And then you take this one step further and try to help others if you can. Don't push yourself on them. They say, no, I really don't want that. Then, okay, they don't want that. Don't push. So those are kind of some of the thoughts I have about trying to be empathic.
That was great. Thank you. I've got another question. How do you feel that you reacted about 9/11 with guilt, knowing that your guides had told you that you would not be able to do anything about it?
That's called being human. Yeah. You know, I guess that just goes to prove, you know, I'm not a mystic. I have the same feelings everybody else has, you know, good things and bad times, good things, whatever. The fact that I lived with it from 1970 up through the whole thing, I still kind of question, why did I have to know this stuff? And as we got closer and closer and closer to it, I knew more and more about it. Up to the point that on September 8th, I actually was talking to somebody in the World Trade Center. I was in Beijing. I wanted to buy something and I forgot to tell my bank that I was in China. So they hooked me up. And that's a fun story too. The Chinese hooking up the wiring so I could call the United States. And I talked to somebody on the phone there. And I was aware that she was in the World Trade Center. And she was in the South Tower. And she was on the 55th floor. And she was by herself on third shift. And I saw everything around her cubicle disappear. And she was in midair. So I knew she was going to survive. And I told her to, and I talked to her after I got done through all the security questions and stuff that she got done. Told her what was going to happen. I didn't tell her about the plane. I just said something bad's going to happen. And I asked her to please let others know about it. Geez, now I forgot what I was going more than that. What's the question again?
It was about your guilt.
Oh, guilt. Yeah. See, I want to forget that. Even though I knew all that stuff and I knew when it was going to happen, I knew what days it was either going to be on the 11th, 12th, or 13th. It's going to be between 8 and 9 o'clock in the morning. There's going to be 2 planes hitting 2 different towers. They were going to come down. I mean, all of that I knew. And I really thought about going to it was a Sunday, the Sunday before, what would it be, the 9th? I really thought about going to the US Embassy and seeing if I could find somebody there to tell them what was going to happen, that they had to watch out for airplanes not flying where they're supposed to be. Something simple. And that's when I was told, you can't do anything about it. So I didn't. And I still kind of go, I should have tried anyway. Maybe they'd have nothing there except some guard at the desk saying, you know, nobody here. Or some clerk working in the office didn't want to talk to me, or talk to me, but they couldn't do anything about it. Who knows? I mean, the ifs are, you know, go on forever. But even though I couldn't do it, couldn't stop it, yeah, it happened. And I in those human moments, which is all very all the time, I know that I couldn't do it. I know that. Logically, I know that. But emotionally, feeling their deaths, seeing them die. And I watched 9/11, you know, here a week or two ago. Well, God, not even a week. Last Sunday, I watched some 9/11 stuff just to see what was, you know, and it hit me the same way. I had to turn it off. It's a human thing. I just like, yeah, logic says, no, I couldn't have done anything about it. But it doesn't mean I can't hurt.
Yeah, of course. You know, I appreciate you answering that. It does help, I believe, to know there is no death. So what have all your experiences confirmed for you about what's happening on the other side? What happens upon death?
I love sharing groups. SAI has sharing groups, IONS has sharing groups. And I actually in a sharing group in my house, a group that meets together that's not affiliated with anything. Every person who's had a near-death experience has a different experience. I mean, it's unbelievable. Well, unbelievable. It is believable because I have been there myself. I've had 3 NDEs, and everyone's different. It's just what happens on the other side. For me, I can only speak for myself. I mean, you can listen to a lot of different NDEs. For me, it was basically learning that the universe is a lot bigger than I thought, right? And that we're so centered on Earth that we don't think about the rest of the universe or universes. That it's all one. It's all connected together. A few years ago, I was asked a question when I was questioning what happens in the next life. And it was basically, well, what do you want to know? What do you want to do in your next life? And my answer was, I want to study time. I want to understand time. And the answer back was granted. So somehow I'm going to be studying time in my next life, whether that is physically in here or it's going to be somewhere else.
Okay, well, that was great. How about one last question? Michelle has asked again, how do you put up your filters since you're so in empathy all the time? How do you put up filters? Now, you mentioned that you try to focus on the positive, and we appreciate that. So let us know, how do you put up your filters?
Really, it comes down to nowadays it just happens when I just think about it. But when I was first trying to do it, it was hard. It was really hard. The first time I had to do it, I knew it was going to be a problem. Was going to visit Nancy's dad in the hospital. He had colon cancer and he had surgery, and we were going in to see him. I have a problem going to the hospitals. And I really have to concentrate heavily when I'm going, before I walk in. And what I do is, I don't know how I do it. I close my mind. And I concentrate on one thing. In this case, I concentrated on her father. I concentrated on how is he doing. I want to know how he's doing. And I concentrated everything on him, period. Nothing else. And that got me into the hospital to talk with him and to leave. Unfortunately, as I was walking out of the hospital, Nancy said she wanted to use the restroom. It was by the elevators. I could see the parked garage right there. I sat down on the bench and waited for her. And all of a sudden, I started getting an upset stomach. And it went on fire. And I got so bad, I fell off of the bench onto the floor. And I was in a fetal position again, holding my stomach, going, what the heck? I mean, it was like fire. And then I heard a voice yell, Mrs. Watson, the doctor's figured out what's wrong. He's going to give you a prescription. It's on its way here now. And the response was, thank God. She just went on and on about it. And the nurse went in and calmed her down. And I looked around going, where'd that come from? And I looked around, and right behind me, there was a hallway, and there were hospital beds down the hallway. All right. And immediately at that point in time, I said, okay, I got to shut things down again. So what I did was I shut it back down to, where's Don, for Nancy's father? How's he feeling? He's feeling good. That's good. Now, Nancy is going to show up any minute. I need to get together. I started thinking about the present, right now, this moment in time. I want to feel better? And it went away. And I was able to get up and sit on the bench. And then Nancy came out and said, well, let's go. So basically, it's just concentrating on one thing or just a few things. If you're trying to make it through a few days or a day or something like that, I don't know how you would do that necessarily, except concentrate and look for good things to concentrate your attention on so that you're not leaving it open. That's all I can think of.
Thank you. Perfect.
Thank you so much, Greg, for that absolutely fascinating presentation. I know a lot of people are going to be watching the video to hear this story again and are really going to be touched by your sharing. So thank you very, very much.